Hello and welcome back for the first module of this course. My links are not working, so I'm going to have to flip to my pages this way, so please bear with me. I created this workbook on my desktop, and when I uploaded it into the iPad, the links did not work, so I learned a good lesson. But we are looking at the first page in the ratios module. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I typed things in to speed up the process a little, but we still have to write some things in, and I think that will help you not only remember, but to understand a little bit more. So I'm trying to get the right pen size. I think that'll do. And let's look at the definition of a ratio. Ratio is a comparison, and this is on page 11. I remembered to number the pages this time. A comparison of two quantities, and those quantities could be anything. You will see in these problems that it doesn't matter what the units are. We deal with units of time and weight and capacity. We deal with miles, kilometers, all sorts of different things. But the ratio, the word I want you to remember is that it's a comparison of two quantities. And an array is an organized display. You can use arrays to develop tables, and those are especially helpful if you have a lot of information, a lot of data to try to sort through and to process. So if we look at this first array, it's just a group of shapes that I created in Microsoft Word. There is no meaning to these. I just picked colors and shapes that I liked, and I made an array. So this organized display could definitely be a little more organized. And so that's what I had put down for the first activity there, is to use the array to build a table. And if you're planning to go on to college, this is something that you need to know how to do. So I thought I would show you an example in this video, and then we'll use that to write some ratios. So the first thing you need to do if you're building a table is to figure out your variables. And variables are simply things that can change. Vary means to change. So variables are things that change. And in this particular array, there are two variables. And those would be color. So the items change color from one to the next. And also shape. So there are two variables, color and shape. And I'm going to need that to do my table. The color is going to become the column variable, and it doesn't matter in this particular array. Sometimes it will. Sometimes you're going to need to put a certain variable on a certain axis, but in this particular case, we don't have to worry about. And the shapes will become my rows. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to flip-flop those. I won't go into why. I should have thought through this just a hair. Let's do the colors in the rows and the shapes in the columns. So the two variables on this array are color and shape. So to decide how many rows we need, and this is again going to be the color variable, you need to ask yourself, how many colors are there? Well, there are 4. There are the blues, the yellows, the green, and the red. And then I also want to make a row for the header, the title. And then at the bottom, we want a row for totals. So those, based on that variable of color, I'm going to need 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 6 rows. And then for my columns, remember these are the shapes. So we need to count the shapes we have. We have triangles, squares, and circles. We need a header and a total. So that tells me that for my columns, I'm going to need 5. So if they ask you, a professor or anyone asks you to calculate the number of cells that you'll need, you're always going to multiply to do that. So you're going to say 6 times 5, and that's a total of 30 cells or 30 boxes in this table. That's not going to you're not going to need to do this on the HiSET. I'm just thinking of those of you who are going on to college. You might have to explain how you draw a table. So you define your variables, you figure out your rows and columns, and then you count the number of each. So let's go ahead and draw the table. I know that I'm going to need 30 cells total, and I've figured this out just so you don't have to sit here and wait on me to figure it out. I want you to draw a line all the way across your graph there. And then go down 2 dots or 2 squares and draw, it's 1 dot but 2 squares. We're going to do that again. And remember, I'm putting the rows in, so I need 6 of these. So I have 2 rows. I recommend a straight edge for, I'm lucky my iPad does the straightening for me. So, and then the columns, we need 5 of those. So I'm going to take every 5, let's draw this one in and this one just to make it look a little nicer. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. I'm going to put a column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. I started to draw this for you, and I thought, no, I think that it would be good for you to have the practice. Sometimes once you've drawn one of these, you can understand them much better. So we have 5 columns and 6 rows. I won't bore you with counting those, but that is a total of 30 cells. So let's put the headers in. The first thing I'm going to do is to put in my colors. Yellow, red, and it doesn't matter which order you do them in this table. It really doesn't. So those are my row headers. Rows go left to right. And then remember, we want the total of those down here. This will actually be the total of the columns. And then across the top, I need the shapes. Those are my column headers. I have circle, square, and triangle. And then you always want a total, or I do. I guess it depends on your professor. So we're going to go ahead and organize this data. Okay? So to do this, I think maybe you know this, but let me just be sure. I'm looking at yellow circles to put in this first cell. So I count the number of yellow circles, and there are 2 of them. Red circles, there are 0. Blue circles, I have 1. Green circles, I have 1. And then the total number of circles is 4. So that's the circle column. Yellow squares, red squares, blue squares, green squares. And the total number of squares is 4. Yellow triangles, red triangles, blue triangles, and green triangles. Okay, to total my rows, I'm looking at this total. 2 plus 0 is, of course, 2. 3 plus 1 is 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 0 plus 3 is 4. And then if I total my column right there, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that should also equal the row total. So 12 is the grand total. And I'm going to highlight that because that's going to be important in a minute. So this is a table that illustrates your array. And I'm going to stop this video and I'll finish up this page in the next segment.